Welcome to this week's edition of the Muslim Street Podcast. The Muslim Street, you can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com across all social media except one. X, formerly known as Twitter, formerly known as Zionist bullshit. Okay, so since they bought X out, I simply put up a post a few weeks ago from Anna Kasparian, who is like a, kind of populist, socialist leaning. I wouldn't even call it socialist. Kind of like Bernie Sanders, kind of. She's on the platform of the Young Turks with my man Chink, the atheist from Turkey. Anyway, I just simply put up a post by her, screaming down Zionist Israel and the genocide that's going on there, and they literally suspended the Muslim Street. So you can't find us at X anymore. Don't even bother with this stuff. And my response to any of that, being kind of socially discharged across these social media platforms, shadow banned, etc., is that the same response that Malcolm X had when he couldn't get the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's work printed. He started his own printing press, right? The other thing was, prior to that, found a militant wing of these petty bourgeois black newspapers, the Chicago Defender, founded by Sinstak and the boys who set up Garvey. But he found a Pittsburgh Courier that would carry his articles, right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's article on a weekly basis. Until in 1957, 58, he was able to set up the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. The point is, we need our own platforms, all right? We don't have to go through this stuff. They platform and disseminate information from buffoons and bozos. Anytime that you see any kind of Muslim voice that has hundreds of thousands of likes and big followers, you ain't saying nothing. All right, we know this white man. All right, he's not gonna be platforming his own doom. Anytime that you see quote unquote black conscious voices, like the bozo, I'm sorry, the Prince of Pan-Africanism, all right, who just ripped off black people over the last 13 years under the auspices of I'm raising money for a school, millions of dollars. Anytime you see them getting hundreds of thousands of likes, you know that they ain't saying nothing. All right, the white man don't fear that. That's why he put it out there. So anyway, you cannot find us on X or Twitter any longer. Forget about that stuff. You can also find us at, again, I mentioned the muslimstreet.com articles, as well as our podcast, and of course across YouTube for now. I'm joined here today with Dr. Viper Issa White, who is the author of Blacklisted, The Price for Speaking the Truth. Literally had a conversation with him about some political things that went down in the political sphere this week that makes his book that more relevant. I think later today he has a book signing presentation coming up in Tampa, Florida. So if you're nearby, 2:00 over in Temple Terrace, stop by, and have Dr. White give the address here in a second. Also joined by the founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists and CEO of Mobley, none other than Art Mobley. Art is also a convening member of the Darfur 23. So we're going to jump right into it, guys. Brothers, I think that there's a couple of hot issues that I wanted to address. And I will start this off with Dr. White. This meeting that took place in the Oval Office with Donald Trump and the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani.
Yes.
Yeah. So
thank you, Brother Malik, and good to talk to the viewers and the listeners again. That's all over the country, all over the world. I found that meeting very interesting because during the Mamdani's campaign, he ran as what he called a socialist Democrat, and people began to argue that he was a different type of fella, and that he was going to bring complete changes and ideas to a state, to a city, that is suffering. I try to remind people that he was in the state assembly and he never issued or promoted anything that was progressive outside the lines of the establishment party. So when he met Mr. Trump, they had a love fest. They both agreed with each other. In fact, President Trump stated that, there's no difference between the Democratic and the Republican Party, which I stated in my book very clearly. It's nothing but a political establishment that runs both groups. It appears already that Mamdani is pulling back from many of the issues and ideas that he stated to win the office. In fact, a few hours later, he was on he was interviewed by Monday, and Monday asked him, "Are you going to arrest Netanyahu if he comes to New York?" He circled around the issue, and to ultimately, the conclusion was that he was not. All of that was nothing more than lip service. And the American and the New Yorkers are going to see that there's no difference between both groups, both parties, and both individuals. We got suckered. I'm stating that right now. We got suckered, and there's not going to be much difference. The only mayor that New York ever had that was progressive, that was Mayor LaGuardia, all right, back in the 1930s and 40s. Brought forth issues like health care, universal health care for the city, free housing, and all types of things that was really good. And they in fact they called him a socialist, and the Democratic Party got him out of there too. So that's what I found. It's very, very interesting
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he has already pushed back.
Yeah, Art, quick question for you on this issue of that meeting that took place last week. One of the things that, and I watched the whole thing live, right? And I was like rolling on the floor, man. And the reason I was rolling on the floor, because Trump smiling at this Muslim, at these degraded Muslims, came up with the Muslim ban twice. He has now this red meat that he's thrown out to the what's left of the MAGA crowd, because it's fragmented with the Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Candace Owens, and the Joe Rogan people moving out, Tucker Carlson, all these people moving out over the genocide in Palestine. So he's took this red meat that he's thrown out to his what's left of his base, who have now formed these white hate groups. And they have gone after Muslims in Dearborn. They put a march there last week where they took the Quran and wrapped it with a piece of bacon. Also, there were some Muslim students in Tampa, Florida, University of South Florida, on campus. In their regular group that they have, they prayed their Fajr prayer, and these racist white groups tried to interrupt while they were praying. Right. So Art, this whole thing with this sort of contradiction, if you will, of Trump. The reason I was rolling around on the floor laughing was that I was like, man, when his base gets this message that I saw at the Oval Office of him with this love fest with the mayor-elect, who is Muslim, they're gonna poop their pants. I was cracking up.
Well, I think that Mamdani is certainly going to be better than Cuomo and some of the Eric Adams and the rest of them who have occupied those offices recently and led the city. I don't know what that means. I have never lived in New York, but I'm from Detroit. I know Dearborn very well. I used to live in Dearborn as well. But I think that I take an approach similar to what Bobby Seals took when he spoke to the issues of whether or not the Black Panther Party was anti this or anti that. And he said, we ain't anti nothing. We ain't anti nobody. We are pro-African. We are pro-Black. We are pro our agenda. And I think that that's where, the Muslim street needs to be. We don't care who bans us or who doesn't like us. We're for our people, and we're going to continue to speak to the issues of Pan-Africanism and Africanism and the liberation of Africa, and that in and of itself is going to irritate people. It just comes with the territory. So my thoughts are, I like to keep it positive and stay on that page and let the chips fall where they may, let the knuckleheads drop where they may, and we keep right on moving. So
yeah. There's a comment in the chat, and I think Lance and we've been produced out of Ghana. Accra, Ghana, Abori, with Lance Gervin. Lance Gershon, just giving a shout out in the chat. Lance, why don't you read that question in the chat that you're referring to? Here it is, right here. What? A Magnum 240.
It's a thumbnail.
Yeah. I read it.
It's a thumbnail of a white man. He says, "Why has it always got to be the white racist groups? Whites are not the only one racist, dude."
Yeah, I'll tell you what Malcolm told you, right? Malcolm said, "Why don't you go back to the white community and reform your own people?" I'm not interested in that. Really, I'm not. I've never in my entire activist Black revolutionary life been interested in trying to change the minds of white people. That's your group. That's your tribe. Go back in the cave and then try to this time cook the meat, and maybe they'll swallow it, because I'm not interested in it. Okay. So moving right along from Mr. Magnum 240 whatever.
Yeah, he's saying that whites aren't the only racists, so he wants to get involved in that discussion. But of course, we know that white people, at least in this culture, and half of the rest of the world, minus the global South, are in a lot of controlling circumstances, and African Americans are not in a controlling circumstances. We don't control no money, we don't control no banks, we don't control no institutions in this country, we don't control anything. So we can't be racist, because racism is a product of power, not just skin color.
We have lived under white world domination, or white power, also known as white supremacy, for the last 500 years. We know when it started, we know how it started, and we know why they were victorious over us. They beat us and outgunned us that time. We'll win the next one. Dr. White.
I think he's
Dr. White is in transformation there. So Art, there was also something that went down this week that had to do with President Trump sent one of his Black crony musician strippers to the UN under the name of Nicki Minaj to address the UN, the United Nations. She ain't read a book in her life to address the United Nations on the propaganda and the myths that Trump himself has couched vis-a-vis the Nigerians and quote unquote Christians being mass murdered and genocide by Muslims. And we've already on the Muslim street a few weeks back. Go get the recordings. And we had Muslims, non-Muslims, and non-Christians on the ground. Right, we had no agency on one side of this myth and propaganda, or the other, address that issue. And Nicki Minaj ain't even left wherever part of the New York ghetto that she came from. But anyway, Nicki Minaj and addressing the UN. Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty sad to see. But we have to forgive ignorance, until we address those people directly. But we're going to see that kind of madness at every point. So I'm not surprised. But Lance is right there in Ghana. Ghana's a couple of steps away from Nigeria. So I mean, he also understands the same forces and the same dynamics are present in Ghana. Ghana's probably more than 50% Muslim, and the Muslims live and interact with all parts of the rest of the community. I'm sure Lance isn't seeing killings and fights on the streets of Ghana, and that's a regional situation. That is not going on in Nigeria. The killing or any kind of interaction of war that happens in Nigeria and in that region happens for other reasons. Muslims are getting killed, Christians are getting killed, people who don't consider themselves anything but African traditionalists are getting killed in the process, because the people who are causing the terroristic scenario in the region are those leftover remnants that came down out of Libya, ISIS, and those fighters that Israel and the United States sent into Libya to dethrone and decapitate that country, are now running wild and running loose and have been sent to cause mayhem in the Sahel. So we see through the nonsense. That's another reason we get banned, because we see through the nonsense, and we will call it out, and we'll continue to do that.
It reminds me of what Malcolm stated years ago. Malcolm stated that African American people are the only people in the United States and in the world whereby we allow our celebrities to be our leaders. He pointed to Red Fox and Jake Gregory and several others at that time. And so Nikki, I mean, is a woman who has a dying career. She has nothing to say, but they prop her up because they understand that African Americans have this love affair with any celebrity who's on the stage to say something that sounds political. And those things have to stop. Also, what's interesting to note, going back to the issue with Mamdani, even though he had that love affair, we cannot be taken back that he is going to do anything worthwhile. And I agree with you, Art, that we have to have a nationalist perspective and interest within that. But within that, we have to make clear that our voice is heard in New York, because again, New York and Chicago and LA and Houston are the cities that we have. And New York and Chicago especially have a firm ground of Black nationalist concept and consciousness. And it must be heard, and it must be spoken, and it must be illustrated in New York. My biggest fear with Mamdani is that the African American interest in Black nationalism will not be heard. Even though he talked a little bit of Haitian Creole, and even though he spent a little time in Harlem, and no, Harlem is not Black any longer. Let me push that back. He really did not speak our interest.
Why would we expect him to speak for Black people? I mean, I think we have to speak for Black people ourselves. Black people have to speak up. African people have to speak up. Pan-Africanists have to speak up. Native Black people consider themselves to be Native American, and there are a lot of them because we are indigenous to this area as well. We have to speak up for ourselves. Nicki Minaj isn't going to speak for us. Mamdani's not going to speak for us. Trump's not going to speak for us, and we don't expect them to. So, like Brother Malik was saying in regards to what Malcolm had to say, we have to speak for ourselves, and we can't expect that anybody else is going to bring our agendas to the table, and we need to bring them in with a jackboot.
Yeah, I think what Art was saying, Dr. White, is in lieu of Mamdani meeting with Trump, Eric Adams, who was on exit out of the mayor's office in Gracie Manor, what was he doing? He was over in Israel with that yarmulke on his head, kissing the Wailing Wall, promising to the Jews, I've been good, Massa. I've been good to you, Master. Keep me on some of this, dialogue
payroll
until I can make my next leap for you, Massa. So I mean, in light of that, I mean, if we let me tell you something. If we catch Mamdani over there with a yarmulke on his head, okay, which makes him a kufa as soon as he puts it on, outside of the fold of Islam, right? And if we catch him kissing that Waylon Wong, oh yeah, it's gonna be on, bro. But anyway, go ahead.
We have a question for the panel.
I mean, but Eric Adams is a disgrace, right? I mean, he's no different than Van Jones. Van Jones was addressing the a Jewish interest group, and he's calling them brothers and how he has to fight for them. We see Congressman Tory out of New York the same way to be told AOI, AOC, and a host of others who are supposed to be progressive are gotten a lot of money support from the Jewish interest group. So all of them, in many respects, are charlatans.
Well, we got a question. We got a question on the table.
Yeah. Before we answer that question, Lance, who was the last black mayor of New York City? Was it David Dinkins?
Dinkins.
Yeah, he was firmly in the pocket of the Zionists.
Yeah, a little Virginia guy who moved up to New York to run.
Well, how can you be the mayor of New York unless you are certainly a mouthpiece for the Zionists, the Jewish community in New York? I mean,
but you can be, even though New York has the largest Jewish population of any city in the country, they're still not the majority of New York.
Exactly.
And we ran off the statistics at last week and the week before that, that Mamdani got a large percentage of the young Jewish vote, young white votes. He literally got a mandate for all that he talked about on his platform prior to being elected. There's a mandate in place.
Yep.
Now, our raises the question, he couldn't get elected without it. I mean, his mandate is anti-Zionism, anti-Israel. It's clear that it's not the case, but it does set up that situation where he's going to have to, if he does back into that wall, he's going to box himself out of it, and it's not going to be pretty.
Well, my point was,
here's a story, Malik. If he is anti-Zionist, is he going to call for a boycott?
He already did
of Israeli businesses. Yeah. Is he going to divest? Is he going to divest New York out of Israel? All right. Is he going to, arrest people who's part of the Zionist crew in government when they visit the UN? These are topics. I don't care what he says now. All right. I want to see if he's going to follow these dictates. If he's not, he's just smoking. He's just blowing smoke.
His chief of staff, who has an agenda as strong against Israel as you and I, his chief of staff that he just named, totally has sent the signal. They've already put out the message that they're going to boycott Zionist businesses, and particularly Starbucks. That's huge. And the BDS thing, which served as at least one of the wings of the basis for the apartheid defeat in South Africa that was adopted by the pro-Palestinian movement. 38 states in the United States have anti-BDS laws. New York is one of them. Illinois is another, right? As we see Jesse Jackson Jr. running for Congress, they got to take these issues on. And I would suggest that he will take that on. I have he's backed himself into a corner. He cannot let that exist. The pressure is going to come from the movement. Whoa. Zoran, you anti-Zionist? Let's see. What is that BDS doing up in New York City? So he has to bring that down.
Well, I think that he is probably going to be able to do a lot of that and accomplish a lot of that. That's why he was elected. The youth, the socialist movement, particularly young people who are sick of seeing what's going on in Gaza and what's going on in Palestine, were adamantly out and were registering to vote, and that's how he got elected. That is his platform. That is his constituency. So I hope that he follows through and does everything he can to support that constituency. I don't expect him to do anything for Black folks. And that question that came in, I think we should address that and allow ourselves to move into the positive things that we need to be doing, because that question is very good.
Yeah, Lance, can you put that question back up about economics vis-a-vis Black people and et cetera?
Yes, let me put it right now. Here it is. It's from the Wolf Master.
Yeah, how can we create an efficient economic infrastructure in our global Black community? How can we as African people set up trade, manufacturing, etc.? And I think that is very key and very vital to what we need to be doing here in America as well as on the African continent. We have to have that as our priority. So how we can do that here in the U.S., we need to be going back to what we did prior to or after in Reconstruction rather, and start forming African American communities and collectives and farm communities and putting Black farms back together. We can do more of that now than we could back then. We need to move in a very strong direction to form those alliances that make sense for the protection of Black people, even here in the U.S. And we need to realize that this white supremacist movement that's taking power and taking control of the U.S. is not mincing any words. They are coming after us. They are, the stuff that's going on with the Latino community and with their so-called crackdown on immigration is just a dress rehearsal for what they want to do to us. We have always been the number one security threat in this country. We have been since slavery, according to these people. Not that we threaten anybody, it's just that that's the consideration, because that's how they roll. That's who they feel threatened by. They're threatened by our presence. So until we can get that tamped down, we need to recognize that we've got to be strong. The other thing that will really strengthen the position of African people around the world will be that Africans also understand this, and they unite. Muslims, Africans, Christians, whatever they are on the African continent. If you are Black, you need to understand that we need to fight with unity against what's going on in the international economy. The more unified we are, the more powerful we're going to be and the more threatened they're going to be. But we will be able to exercise maximum power if we can just get beyond the trickery of being divided and conquered. And I think that's
that's a great question. I think the antithesis to this in our lifetime that we saw this was the Barack Obama ordered assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, who was literally putting together what was called the United States of Africa into 7 regions where we could trade with one another. We could have the removal of passports and visas. We could have economic stability regionally, as well as what was our interest in particularly as it relates to global outcomes, right? I think the revisit of and we've been talking about this on the Muslim Street on a consistent basis, the revisit of a Pan-African, Pan-Arab unification, which has to start on the African continent, to solve this problem, and then put together and reform what was destroyed under Obama when he assassinated Colonel Gaddafi, which was his number one program, the United States of Africa. Art, can you speak into those kind of things as relate to the brother's first question, is how can we create an efficient economic infrastructure in the global African community, the global Black community?
No doubt. Barack Obama set us back 40 years in Africa with the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi. It was very treacherous. It was very deliberate. And I know he was pushed into being a part of that cabal, he and Hillary Clinton. And that movement was also Zionist backed, and we know that as well. But the assassinations began with Alaki, who was one of the first extrajudicial murders.
And Laki and his son 6 months later.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
Obama.
Yes, we have this history, and we need to remember these things, and I think they are remembered. Yeah, so the movement again to try and pick up and do the unification things that you spoke of, Pan-Arabism, Pan-Africanism, are where we need to be focused. We've got to be more focused on developing ourselves, protecting our own women and children, and protecting ourselves from a very vicious society. And we can be very effective from an African standpoint. I mean, just think and imagine if Africa were a collective of governments, and they're moving in this direction, but when they become that collective of governments and collective of institutions where they speak with one voice or a united voice, that is going to be so effective at supporting Africans in the diaspora who are trying to do the same things and trying to live peacefully and practically in their own cultures, including here in the States. We need the cover of Africa to tell these people, look, if you touch an African American, if we hear about another brutality incident in the streets that's unwarranted of unarmed Black men and women, we are going to cut you off. We are going to cut off your access to cobalt.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. White, as it relates to Brother Satch, who was a member of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party and the leadership of Chairman Fred Hampton, said this. He said, "We're not here to overthrow the government. We're simply here to heighten the contradictions and let the people decide whether the government needs overthrown or not." Now, in relationship to Barack Obama, who was part of the government, right, who oppressed Black people, can we now in 2025 call a spade and as Black people at least heighten the contradiction as it relates to Barack Obama's failed presidency vis-a-vis Black people? We're going to continue to say, oh yeah, he was cool. Did you see the way he walked? He liked jazz music. I mean, at some point we got to take this facade off. But before you answer that question, Dr. White, and I want you to answer it in the context of Blacklisted, I asked ChatGPT, give me the definition of a pole dancer. That's what he gave me. Anyway, Dr. White, go ahead.
Well, first of all, President Obama out of Chicago was one of the biggest shams that we have ever had within our political system. And sadly, right now, I mean, one of the biggest storylines and narratives that still align with the African American community is that he was a great president. He done something for us, and we miss him. That is the biggest lie that you can have. It's very difficult to break that lie, though, because again, that was pushed into the minds of the American community. The only way that we can beat that, we have to have an alternative narrative with a person who will demonstrate real leadership and the real concerns. For example, with Obama, he increased espionage in Africa from the United States to spy on African states. He increased the military armament in Africa. That is American military bases. He deported more African people than even Trump right now. All right, he deported more people into South America. He is the biggest lie. So therefore, we have to have a different narrative that will combat that. Just because a man is a Black face doesn't mean that he is part of our agenda and that he is good. You see, so that's where we are.
Yeah, Art. Back in 2007, the Darfur 23 was formed on the banks of the banks of the Nile River in Khartoum in Sudan. And one of the key issues that rolls out of this group of 23 Africans from America who went there for a 3-week fact-finding mission. One of the things that arose out of this was that there was a plan launched by the United States government going all the way back to the Clinton administration to divide the Sudan into two parts. We said that it would lead to millions of Sudanese being killed in the civil wars. And this is exactly what has happened. All right. So it was Barack Obama in 2011 who oversaw the splitting of the country of the Sudan. At the time, the largest, and it probably still is, the largest landmass country on the African continent. Art, what do you say?
Well, I think this is actually what is expected of Obama, Clinton, Biden, that they act as a monolith. They are one person. I see them as one person. I don't see any difference between Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Bill Clinton and George Bush. And the rest of them. They're all the same. That's the job of the presidency, is to do what he did. So for us to expect that he was going to act in some out of character way and was going to do something extraordinary for Black people is now the dubious, just the thing that doesn't work. So I think we need to be realistic. Number one, when we're thinking about the presidential position, and put Barack Obama in context with that situation and move forward. But it doesn't change what has happened disastrously in the Sudan. We've got a major catastrophe, over 500,000 children killed in Sudan, millions displaced. And when you see, and again, before that happened, Malik, going back to Darfur 23, we sent teachers and educators and business people into Sudan, Black business people, educators and journalists into Sudan to assess what was going on for ourselves, which again, we've mentioned here on the Muslim Street is something that we need to do, continue to do, and need to be involved in today, to find out for ourselves. We can't depend on journalistic organizations, politicians, and other people to explain anything. They don't need to filter what we are seeing coming out of Africa. We don't need Nicki Minaj and anyone else, for that matter, filtering stories and information coming out of the continent. We need to go and gather that information ourselves. But what we saw and what we tried to prevent was exactly what is going on today. I said with the groups of Sudanese people from Washington and all the way back to here in Arizona, they had the Lost Boys, and they had all of these Sudanese groups around the country that were setting up, and they were trying to get them jobs and trying to get in the heads of
propaganda.
And
yeah,
but they wanted to manage these groups of people, and these people were adamantly saying, "Oh, we want the U.S. to come in." And the worst thing that you can call for, if you don't understand that by now in this day and age, is to call for U.S. help. You call for U.S. help, you are going to have a catastrophe, whether it was in Sudan or whether it is in Nigeria. Keep calling for Trump to come into Nigeria, and you will look just like Sudan. I want these.
But I have a question in reference to the Sudan. I mean, there's one thing that we didn't.
Wait. Go ahead, Dr. White. You had a question.
I'm sorry. There's one thing that we did not expect in the Sudan that's taking place now. At least I didn't. That Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates would be staging a proxy war there where our people are dying, and that they're also using American weapons.
No. Back in 2005, they used the Emiratis were involved through France with funding and transferring weapons to groups in Sudan. We were trying to, in 2007, on the ground in Sudan, hold together a very fragile peace agreement that was negotiated 2 years earlier in Abuja. And through that, that's what we found out. America has always had its proxy. Wait. And they also and they also fighting a proxy war in Kenya through Ethiopia. Excuse me. Yeah, so these proxies and the Emiratis were involved in that, because one of the things we have to understand, in 2007, the Sudanese government, under the leadership of, say whatever you want to say about it, Prime Minister Omar Hassan al-Bashir had put together an economic threat to the West. We were over there. We saw the manuals. We saw the plans. They were literally creating a pass-through that would mimic Dubai into Africa from Asia. Literally, that's what was going on, right? Not to say about the abundance of other mineral resources, and particularly oil, where the United States in 1995, Exxon and the boys were kicked out by the Sudanese. They wrote them a $25 million check and told them don't come back. This was under the Clinton administration. What did Clinton do? Immediately went to war through proxies with Sudan, and on the anniversary, the next day of the Monica Lewinsky impeachment, what does he do? He bombs Khartoum. We're talking about Bill Clinton, and he sent out his front people to spread propaganda as they began this process of splitting up the Sudan. So this is there was a threat. An economic threat out of Khartoum. And Art, do you know that the airport that we flew into in Khartoum and the hotel, and I just got news of this about 2 weeks ago, and the hotel that we stayed in, they are gone, totally flattened, not to be seen or heard from anymore.
A beautiful area. I mean, Sudan had been built up, and the Khartoum and cities in the south had been built up into very, very positive representatives of what could be on the African continent. And we need to understand how serious this conflict is and why we need to be speaking against it, and why we need to be agitating for a immediate cessation of hostilities in that area, why we need to be advocating for a control locally of oil resources, gold resources, land resources, African resources in the hands of African people. Get the oil companies out of there, because if you looked at a map of Africa and you looked at the Nile River from its from its inception, from its sources in the Rift Valley and all the way down to the lakes and into southern Africa, those tributaries flow south to north, and they flow to the Mediterranean. And if you spoil that part of Africa, those are the African highlands. And if you spoil that part of Africa, everything will run off into all of the tributaries, the main tributaries, into the entire continent. It will run straight down the Nile. It'll run straight into the Mediterranean, but it will also run through the Congolese River to the Atlantic Ocean, and you'll have a major ecological catastrophe. So we need to be involved. We need to be concerned about what's going on, and we need to look at this holistically. Africa needs to take control of not only its resources and its people and its land, but it needs to take control of everything that can make that continent into a whole unit, so that it can function for the benefit of Black people all around the world. That's our goal. That's our mission in Africa. And that's our priority one.
Yeah, as we switch a little gears here, Dr. White, in the last fifth segment here, and again, you're listening to the podcast of The Muslim Street. You can find us at www.themuslimstreet.com. Dr. White, the last segment I want to deal with white hate groups now targeting Muslims. They seem to be targeting by choice because I think they know better. No, they do know better. Not to come into the hood. It was full of Muslims, be it Philly, New York, or Chicago. They're targeting immigrant Muslim groups who are a lot, in a lot of cases, are either first or second generation immigrants to this country. Maybe their status, green card status, might be, in question. They're weak. They're being bullied, right? Yeah. But tell me, Jake Lang, one of the leaders of this group, went up to Dearborn, Michigan, as we mentioned earlier, tried to burn the Quran, wrapping bacon around it. Why didn't he go to Detroit? It's just like right there, isn't it, Art? You say Detroit is
He's
just
not going to go to Detroit. He's not going to go to Dearborn because most of these.
No, he went to Dearborn. He went to Dearborn.
Yeah, he was in Dearborn trying to create some consternation.
Yeah, I'm asking, why didn't he go to Detroit? Why didn't he go to Philly?
Detroit,
why didn't he go to the south side of Chicago?
Well, he's not going to go to those places. I mean, I remember a few years ago, there was a group of whites who went to a black Muslim mosque in Houston, and the brothers came out to meet them, and then the black community stood with the Muslims, the black Muslims, and said, it's not going to happen today. You're not going to come to us. The immigrant Muslim has to understand that they're going to have to get to the point of defending themselves. You see, many of them, they believe that they're conservative in perspective. They believe that since they have money, since they have a few people in politics, that's going to protect them. But these white supremacists, they are cowards. But if you sow cowardness towards them, they're going to continue. They're not going to go on the south side of Chicago. They're not going to go in Harlem, New York. They're not going to go in parts of Philadelphia. They will go to places where they where the Muslims act fearful. When they came on campus at the University of South Florida and started harassing them Muslims, spitting on their prayer rugs, cursing them out, one of them could have got up and jammed their head into the cement. All right? That's what they should have done. And they would have learned very quickly that they don't do that. They don't mess with the Nation of Islam like that because they know that there's going to be a response. That's what needs to be done.
When I was in Ethiopia, it was actually on one of the anniversaries of the 9/11 event. So I was there for the Ethiopian New Year. That's the Ethiopian New Year, September 11th. Just as an aside, but there was an effort to bulldoze a mosque in Ethiopia, and it was essentially being promulgated and backed by forces that were possibly out of Djibouti, some of the military groups that are in Djibouti, who wanted to bulldoze this mosque. They were going to just tear down a mosque. And they, rabble-roused some locals and probably paid some protesters and instigators to be involved, like this group in Dearborn. And they brought the bulldozer out and came out to bulldoze this mosque. Unbeknownst to them, they had talked about it a little bit too loud, and the Coptic Christians found out about it. And hundreds of Coptic Christians turned out and formed a human barrier around the mosque and prevented them from moving with their plan to bulldoze the mosque, wouldn't allow it. So we need to understand that there are allies that we have outside of and inside of various countries and communities
Yeah,
all around the world.
Yeah, it goes back to what Dr. White said. They know who they can mess with. Frank Rice 9520 in the chat. Thanks for joining us, Frank. He says, I remember when the New York Police Department invaded a Nation of Islam mosque in New York City and got their white asses buffed and shined.
Right.
They were screaming for help. And we all know that big story, you know, when Minister Farrakhan comes out and he says he wants all of the white police out of Harlem by sundown or something like that. And they were gone, you know. So in other words, they know who they can mess with, you know, and I'll give you something anecdotal, and I don't like bringing up anecdotal stuff to make points. But I remember, wait. I'm gonna come back to that. Let you come back to that. I just want to bring up this last anecdotal point about they know who they can mess with. They won't go to Philly. Philly's a Muslim city. You know what I'm saying? They won't go to Chicago on the south side or on the west side with that stuff. They knew that they could mess with. Here's something anecdotal. It was the Super Bowl. New Orleans against Peyton Manning Colts and down in Miami. And it was prayer time. I'm at the Super Bowl on the outside, right? Thousands of people. It's time to pray. I laid my thousands of white people. This is all who at the Super Bowl. And I lay my prayer rug down facing Mecca. And I made my prayers. By time that I started, there were like 3 people watching me. When I finished, there were 300 people in a circle watching me all the way, right? And I just picked my prayer rug up and I continue to walk. They know who they can mess with. It was just me by myself. You know, I'm in the middle. Let's go 300 of y'all. They you know, they said, wow, that is so awesome. Yeah, okay. So you know, you got this white boy spitting on the brothers on their prayer rug. Man, I wish I knew he was coming.
Oh yeah. Right. You know, that something like that happened in Orlando. There was some white Christian revolutionary group went to this Muslim store that sold women clothing, harassed them, scared them. I went in there maybe about an hour later. They told me what happened. Brother Issa, what we should do. I said, put a number, because they left a number. Call them back. I called them back. I said, I'm here. Come on now. But they did not want to come then because they know who to mess with. You see? And until, like Malcolm said, until you begin to fight back, until you begin to exert some of your power, then you don't have nothing. You're just going to be a doormat for these people. Yeah, and the question is, though, should we, as Muslims of African American descent who know these people, should we run to their defense and protect them?
100%. I think that that has to be a message sent. And all you need to do is one message, and the rest of them are going to go back into their caves. And because they're nothing but bullies, you know, so they run in bully crowds, right? I grew up with them, know what I'm talking about, right? We had to fight them every day. So, yes, absolutely. There should be a integration of force, a demonstration of force by the Black Muslim community the next time they come announced, and then it'll stop, you know. And you know, the Muslim street. We should write articles about this and issue a challenge to you know, Mr. Jake Lang. Bring your white ass into the Black Muslim community and let us know when you're coming, okay? And we're gonna send it back to you. That's what's gonna happen. All right. So that's an open invitation, Mr. Jake Lang.
Well, you know, we got white supremacy, which is really trying to assert itself, and it's from the White House on down to people in the streets like this puppet. And they are going to do what they're going to do. But what is the answer to white supremacy and this kind of tactic nationally and internationally? You know, we have to have tactics for both situations. And of course, the best antidote to that is our unity, and across lines, Muslim and Christian and Hebrew. And that was one of the things I wanted to get to. You know, we see these thousands of Hebrew brothers who are taking the streets of Philadelphia and Houston and places. And, you know, rather than get into a concern about what our differences are with these brothers. Is there an effort at all in the Muslim community and the Islamic community to find some alliances, if they're nothing more than the color of our skin? What should we do, Malik?
We should do what the late great Chokwe Lumumba, one of the co-founders of the Republic of New Africa back in the 70s, with Omari Obadeli said. He said, we need a peekaboo paramilitary force like the FOI, who would tell us who was coming in the community, what they're doing there, and who won't be coming out. That's what we need, right? To move in silence. And they'll get the message. There may no question about it.
All right. Well, I hope the Hebrew brothers are listening to us, because Hebrews are known to be warriors as well. So
yeah, absolutely. There's warriors all over the Black community, over the African community in the United States. The Muslim presence in across religious lines in the African community. All 40 million Africans that are here in the United States. I mean, it's huge. And
one of the most helpful things I heard from Minister Louis Farrakhan was that brothers from around the world and Muslims from around the world tried to essentially say that the Nation of Islam was some off-brand or some oddity in the international Muslim community. And Minister Farrakhan's response was, no, we're not. We're the new prototype. We're what Muslims should be. We're not any aberration. We are Muslims. We are Islam. And I think that we need to, when we look around the world and we see Islamic groups, and we've talked about some of the countries that are doing things contrary to what we would expect them to do, realize that those people are Muslims who are not acting in Islam. And they need to get their act together. Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and, these wayward groups in Islam need to conform and understand that they need to get a real serious dose of pan-Islamism.
Yeah, one of the problems with that. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. White.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the statement about the Hebrews. That's the brothers who, they march into the city. I think they wear purple or something.
Yeah.
And the question is, he was talking about unity with them, and I agree with that. We have to ask the question, though, are they cultural actors, which means that are they just walking to show a display, or are they true revolutionaries? You see, we have to decide. I don't know. I don't know that leadership.
Yeah, well, at least a wing of the movement that started back in the late 1960s under Rabi Ben Ami. They took a large contingent of Africans in America to quote unquote Israel to live in Dimona.
Yeah.
Their children and their grandchildren are now fighting for the IDF. So if you want to talk about whether they politicized in terms of revolutionary action, I doubt it. They need more of a cultural nationalist movement. So
right. So if they're just cultural nationalists, almost like Von Kavinga back in the day, there's only so much we can work with them. There's only so much we can do with them, because we're talking about a change, a revolutionary change, not just a cultural change.
Yeah. So I want to close out the Muslim Street. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Dr. Viper Issa White, who's running for Congress.
Yes, don't forget to come to our event.
Yeah,
it's 1421 Tampa Park Plaza Street, 1421 Tampa Park Plaza Street, and that's in Tampa, Florida, and that is at the African bookstore. We're expecting a good crowd. It's going to be exciting. It's from 2 to 5 o'clock. We're just a few miles away from it now. but it's from 2 to 5 o'clock. Please come out. This is what we have to say, and share your ideas and thoughts.
All right. There it is.
Blacklist.
Yeah, let's go out and support that. Again, the Muslim Street, I'm Malik Aziz for the Land Scourge Show, producing us, as well as Art Mobley, National Association of Black Journalists, founding member. And of course, Dr. Issa White. We'll see you next week on the Muslim Street. And please, the white boy who mentioned that the reverse racism stuff that we didn't get a chance to address, you mean us here next week, and we're going to address that for you. I'm only going to spend 30 seconds on it because that's about all it's worth. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you. Wa alaikum salam.